This is the real life of James Heaney, and I happen to be the real James Heaney.
It's April 27th. We are knocking off day after day of theta. So I'm gonna keep it real with you for a second, and I've had some thought about it because I don't want to share people's information that's personal. So I debated whether or not to share this person's name, or share this person's medical experience. So I've decided that instead of letting you know who I'm talking about, I'm going to keep it so that I'm not going to give anything super personal away, but just out of respect of this person, I'm not going to share who they are, okay? Because I'd like to tell a couple stories. First off, yesterday I recorded Chapter 1 of The Wizard of Oz, which was written in 1903, I believe, by Frank Baum, perhaps? I think those are the right numbers. Names and dates, you know what I mean. I had read the entirety of the first book of The Wizard of Oz to my little brother, and it was fun, but we would read like one chapter a day, and maybe two chapters on some days when it was really exciting and we had time. But then I've been in the hospital, not for myself, but for this other person for the past 3 days since I've gotten back from the last road tour. So the first day I got there, 3 o'clock, stayed till 6 o'clock, not too long, 3 hours. And then on, I guess that would be Tuesday, I spent from 10:30 in the morning until 8 o'clock is when visiting hours at the hospital are over. But I stayed until 8:40. I looked around and I was like, well, they're not going to kick me out, but I'm just going to be nice and I'm going to leave now because I know I've overstayed my welcome at the hospital. And then I went back today from 3 o'clock until about 8:15. I left today. So, nonetheless, let me get back to what I'm talking about. This person has been under a lot of pain, taking a lot of drugs for morphine. Not drugs for morphine. The drugs are morphine. And a lot of tubes in the body, a couple of tubes in the stomach area releasing blood and air and body fluids, and tubes down the nose emptying out the stomach. And so it's been a pretty rough situation. A lot of pain, a lot of nausea, unable to move, unable to concentrate on the television, and because of the fact that this person has the inability to have anything in them. Well, let me just tell you, let me break down a little bit more. Simple surgery, gallbladder surgery, because there was some nausea and some things going on, and they realized the gallbladder needed to be taken out. So it was taken out. Very small risk when you have this surgery that something could go wrong. Usually it's a couple-day recovery. But a little tiny nick, but probably I would assume a scalpel, I really don't know, but a little nick had occurred in one of the organs inside, likely the intestines. So they were sewed back up, sent home, and after a couple days of pain, which the first day is normal, but more and more pain coming when they should instead be getting less and less, it became obvious that there was something wrong. So I guess the first real clue was that because there was air coming into the body, that there was a hole somewhere made during the surgery. So that's why there's these holes in the stomach now to release air. There can be no fluids in the stomach, no food, nothing, because it needs to heal. So everything's getting sucked out through these tubes, through the nose. It's horrific. It's like something out of the movie Hostel. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's pretty bad. So back to me and my situation. When I'm there, it's difficult for this person to talk because there's these tubes going down their throat and a lot of struggle to go, but the company's appreciated. And it's difficult to do anything. You can't watch TV because you gotta crick your neck up or this and that. So what I've done is I read a book, because I read to my little brother. I read The Wizard of Oz. So I was like, I'm going to buy a book and read to this person. So I bought Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which I don't know if you guys ever read that book, but I read that back when I was probably 20. It was a long time ago. And I remember it was a very inspirational book. So I spent $10, bought the book. only to find out it was only 130 pages long, and I finished it in like half a day. So I read straight through the book, and I was like, well, it's a good book, but it was done in like, I don't know, 4 hours. So I started reading The Wizard of Oz a second time out loud, and this person was absolutely in love with listening to the story. It was the only thing that could get their mind off of the pain and able to close their eyes and relax. And I read, by the end of the day yesterday, I had reread the first half of The Wizard of Oz, which the book is not that long. It's maybe 100 or so pages, but it's really good. I only read the first chapter last night, and I don't expect you to watch all of these chapters, but I am going to try to complete this book. I'm going to actually record another video after this of me reading the second chapter. I think I can dedicate one chapter a day to recording it. I'm going to do it in the same style, but just so you know, if you find it boring and you don't like it, don't waste your time. There's not going to be anything different than me reading the book. I'm not going to monetize it. It's not my work. I'm not trying to take credit for it. But it was written in 1903, so I believe, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe it's passed by whatever copyright laws are there, so I could probably perform it without any issues, but I'm not looking to have advertisements on there. I'm looking to, like, perhaps if somebody wants to listen to the story of the wonderful Wizard of Oz, that they could. And I'll tell you, it's dark. It is not the Wizard of Oz you grew up watching. It's not the Muppets version. It's not the musical version. I mean, there are things getting their heads cut off. There are monsters with the bodies of bears and the heads of tigers. I mean, it's a different book, and it's really good. And it's not too long. I think I can finish the entire book in probably like 5 hours, so I'll probably finish it in a couple weeks. I got voices for all the characters. The Cowardly Lion talks like this. And these are all very similar. I make the Scarecrow talk like this because he's an idiot. So I do a little bit of character work. Nothing very exciting, just something to differentiate the voices so that if you're closing your eyes, you can imagine along with who it is. So that's the situation we're in. I don't know how long this video is, but I'll tell you a little bit more about my frustration with the doctors. And the doctors, in general, are doing the best they can. Like, no matter what job you get, you're going to make mistakes. It doesn't matter if you're a barista working at a coffee shop. It doesn't matter if you're a brain surgeon. When you do something every single day, it becomes routine, and sometimes you mess up, even if you're the best at your job. So I want to say that I'm not spiteful about these things, but there have been some things that when you're watching after somebody you care about in the hospital, it starts to make your blood boil in the moment. And yesterday, these tubes that are supposed to be emptying the stuff out on the inside, they hadn't been filling. I wouldn't call it gross. It's human nature. But they're filling up this like jar that's hooked up to the wall with like this black fluid. And during the first half of the day, it filled it about halfway, and then afterwards, nothing in there. And but they had turned this pump off to see if they could just let this person deal with it for a little bit, and then they turned it back on. And they need to get this person moving so they can start waking up the intestines and waking up the different parts of their body, so that it starts moving by itself. So afterwards, they were putting it down, and they said, okay, well, we need to come and flush these cables out so that it's, I don't even know why I bothered flushing. Nonetheless, they had to flush it. So they came back later, like 7:45, just before the time where I was supposed to leave the day before. And they flushed the cables. It was like, they made it clear one direction. Then they pushed some liquid into this person's body. That was just, I guess it was either water, like I'm not sure what it is, but it was just to clear the cable the other direction. When they hooked it back up, they were walking out the room. I tell you, honestly, they were leaving the room. And I said, well, you guys mind holding on 1 second? Like, let's just make sure that this pump is taking something out. Because right now, since you've left, I've only seen water dripping down towards the person in the hospital bed. And they're like, oh, yeah, we don't mind waiting. Usually it takes a couple minutes for it to start working. And it's like, okay, no big deal. So we waited a couple minutes and nothing happened. And then began like 30 minutes of changing connectors and trying to figure out what was the pump was pumping stuff out. Nobody knew what was going on, and they were about ready to like give up and like have somebody start looking at the wall unit when somehow it just started working again. And I don't know if there was a kink in the cable. I don't know what it was. I'm a doctor. I played a doctor in some improv scenes, but believe it or not, it doesn't make me reputable. So they were like, oh, you know what it probably was? There probably wasn't anything in this person's stomach to pump out. And I was suspicious at first because it was odd that nothing had pumped out for a good half of the day. And then within about 15 minutes, they had changed out the container. So this half container full thing that was from the first half of the day was like moved away. Brand new one was filled a quarter of the way. And that quarter of the way was filled in like 15 minutes. The other one took like half of a day to fill halfway. So when you start thinking about this, it doesn't add up. And they're trying to tell me that they're like, oh, and the lady was like, oh, I wasn't actually going to leave the room until I saw it working. And I was like, oh, now let it slide. I was like, well, I said, okay. And she was like, there's probably nothing in there. And I was like, I don't know if that's true because it filled it a quarter of the way up. So it would have taken a massive like a surge of the stuff to fill it up this much if there was nothing in there before. And anyways, we left it at that. And then tonight, when it's time for me to leave, they were changing not that pump thing, but we had heard that there was a way because she can't swallow. This person can't swallow anything, so they've been using like these cotton balls to like wipe the mouth out. And it's not cotton, it's like a sponge, it's like a great sponge. And they throw the stick out. But we know somebody else that had a severe hospital visit thing, and this person was given something similar to the dentist tubes that could suck stuff out. And so we were like, oh, can we get this like suction tube? And they were like, okay, yeah, we can do that for her. And I was like, okay, well, from what we were explained, it wasn't that you do it for her, it was that you give her this tube so that she does it herself. But nonetheless, they bring this tube in, and they're like, oh, well, we don't have the extra cables, so we're going to get that for you a little bit. And I was like, I said, I'm not leaving, and I'm sorry to be a pain in your butt, but because of last night, I'd rather not leave until I see this all working again. And they were like, oh, okay. And she was like, but yesterday happened only because there was nothing in this person's stomach. That's why nothing was getting pumped out. And at that point, I was a little tired from being in the hospital 2 days in a row for over a long period of time. So I said, I don't believe that. I said, if that was the case, there's no way, because we were looking at the container, and the container was 3/4 full that they had to switch out. And as I think about this for a moment, yesterday I was here for over like about 10 hours, and the first half of the day I was there, it filled up half of the container. The second half of the day I was there, it filled nothing at all. Then you changed the cables, and it didn't work, which is when I noticed it wasn't filling, and we waited until it started filling again. Then, after that, within about 15 minutes, it filled a quarter of the way. So half plus a quarter equals 3/4 for one day. We're looking at this thing here that's been here 2 days. It's 3/4 full. So I would imagine that the 1/4 that filled in about 5 or 10 minutes was the quarter that should have been there from the other part of the day. And we both had to agree to disagree. The nurse was being nice to me. I believe this nurse made a mistake. But I can't call them on it. The only thing I can do is make sure that I'm there. I'm not. If I can help it, and I can't always be there tomorrow, I got a show. I can't be there tomorrow night. But if I can, I'm going to stay until I make sure that when I leave, everything's working, And it's not because I don't trust them. It's not because I don't like them. It's because it's a job, and the more eyes, the better. Now this one's going to blow your mind, though. Another complete accident, unrelated, anything can happen. This is really bad, though. We were visiting, and I saw this person in the bed was fiddling with something in their hands. It's like, oh, what is this? I pull it up and it's a needle that was in the bed. Somebody dropped a needle in this person's bed. Now, in all fairness, the needle was capped on both sides, but nonetheless, somebody dropped a needle in the bed. I mentioned that, and they were like, "Oh, this must have been our mistake," but it was capped. I'm like, "I know it was capped, but you left a needle in the bed. Let's just be honest with each other. You left a needle in the bed, okay?" I don't know. I feel like that's not a good thing. I talked your ear off, so I'm gonna let you go tonight. That's a little inside scoop. Can't tell you who it is. I was either gonna tell you the person who I was visiting that was in the hospital and keep it very vague, but I kind of wanted to tell you the specifics about things and keep this person's name out of it. Don't ask me who it is. You don't know them anyways. Just stay out of this.